Well, I'm joined now by Dame Alison Peacock, who's the Chief Executive of the Chartered College of Teaching. Good evening to you. I don't know if you could hear that report there by our education editor, but there was a mother there who said, look, whatever's happening to the grades at the moment, these should be seen as the children of the pandemic years, really meaning that these are exceptional times. Do you think that the issues thrown up by this year's grades and grading have a wider implication? Is there a deeper problem with grading and exams?
Well, good evening. I think the results this year have been brilliant for young people, and they deserve to be congratulated. Teachers also deserve to be congratulated. We can't take the results that we've had this year and compare them with previous years, because the way in which the children were assessed is completely different. If we look back to 2019, before the pandemic, actually the rate of A-level passes was declining. In fact, the rate of A-level passes was the lowest it had been since 2007. So, although the media is very keen to leap on the grade inflation kind of bandwagon, the reality is that actually prior to the pandemic, this government was really trying very hard to reduce this, to make sure that when we were ranking our students at the end of their schooling, that it was clear which students were suited for which routes in university, in vocational routes for the world of work.
I'm just going to jump in there and say, because you called it a grade inflation bandwagon, and it's not that, is it? I mean, we're just looking at the facts and seeing what proportion of young people have got these grades.
Well, of course. I mean, this year the proportion is much higher. But this is to do with the fact that there's been a local solution. Teachers have been asked, and they've worked very hard, to mark their students against a set of grade descriptors. They've done that. They've looked at a range of evidence. All of the evidence has been second marked. It's all had to be signed off by the Centre for Assessment. So, locally, teachers have done the best they can. When there are national exams, then the exam boards are able to triangulate scripts. They're able to look and see across the piece, the statistical expectations of where we are. So it's no surprise that the results this year are as they are. But it's not to do with all must have prizes. It's not to do with teachers saying, we must have a great year, we must, poor little children, we've got to give them a great result. This is to do with really rigorous, hard work, trying to be as fair as possible for the children who have gone through the pandemic.
But what has happened is that certain disparities have become even more glaring, and people have pointed to the difference in attainment between children at private schools and children in the state sector, and also geographical differences as well, which you'll be aware of, and those must be a cause for worry.
But this is to do with the differential experience that our young people have had since the pandemic began. I mean, there's always been an equity gap in this country, but during the pandemic, some of our youngsters, as you heard in your report, some of our youngsters had access to digital resources. They were able to learn online. Their learning was pretty much uninterrupted. Other youngsters had a much more difficult time. And, that's borne out in the results. There are geographical differences. Of course, the independent sector, there is a real sort of stark difference here. And I suspect this is to do with the resources that the young people have in those schools. The online teaching would have been seamless. The resources they've got at home would have been better. And it really speaks to the unequal society that we have.
So you're essentially saying that actually the exam system, the system of marking and grading generally, is fit for purpose. This is just very much a sign of extraordinary times that we're in.
Absolutely, yes.
OK, very good to talk to you. Thank you so much. That's Dame Alison Peacock from the Chartered College of Teaching.